Good morning, everybody, and welcome for this webinar. This is part 2 webinar on AAC, focusing on how we can plan and implement AAC goals in the home. I am Sharon Borch-Schembri. I'm Senior Assistive Technology Practitioner, occupational therapy background, and together with my colleagues, Dr. Maya Jus, Senior Assistive Technology Practitioner, Speech and Language Therapist, and Ms. Jamie Said, Assistive Technology Practitioner, Speech and Language Therapist, and Ms. Martina Zark, Assistive Technology Practitioner, Speech and Language Therapist. We're going to be presenting this webinar for you today. I would like to remind you that your mics are muted, and you can post your questions and answers in the question and answer section on your screen. And if you want to post anonymously, it's important that you check the box anonymously, and so you can post your question anonymously. This webinar is going to be recorded, and it will be uploaded later on this week on the YouTube channel of Agenzia Sapport. And you can also be able to follow the previous webinars that we have produced in this month of July. In fact, those who of you haven't seen the part 1 webinar on AAC, I invite you to find it on the YouTube channel of Agenzia Sapport and follow it from there. I also want to tell you that whoever would like to have a certificate of attendance for today's webinars, kindly send us a message through email, which we're going to be showing at the end of this webinar. So now I'm going to give the floor to Ms. Jamie Said, so that we can start with this presentation. So we're going to put up the.
Are you seeing it, Sharon?
No, I'm not seeing it yet.
All right, you should be seeing it now.
Okay.
All right. So, thank you, Sharon, for that introduction. As you very well mentioned, we've already had part 1 of this webinar, and I highly encourage you to go and check it out. Today's webinar is a continuation from that previous webinar, and during today's webinar we will be focusing on setting up an AAC implementation plan for AAC users at home. We will also be giving some practical activities and examples. Okay, so just a quick review about what we will be covering today. So we will give a very brief review of the webinar of part 1. So for people who haven't seen it, it could serve very well for them, and it could also serve as a means of refreshing information for the people who did actually watch part 1. Next we will delve into successful AAC outcomes, and in terms of this we will be talking about familiarization with the system. We will be delving into joint engagement and readiness to learn. Next, from there, we're going to touch up on generalization, as well as goal setting, and then communicating beyond requesting. And finally, we're going to finish off with some resources and practical activities. So, as I said, we're going to be starting with a review of webinar part 1. These points are basically what, in a nutshell, what we talked about during part 1. But just for you to know, so we spoke about aided language stimulation, which is the term we use when we talk about how you should model with an AAC system. We said that this means that when you talk, you should point to the symbols on the AAC device as well. So the communication partner should, we encourage the communication partner to use the AAC system of the child. It is through this actually that the child will learn to use it himself. We also spoke about how the child must, through aided language simulation, will learn basically two very important things, which is about where the symbols are located and how these symbols can be used during communication. So the success on how much the child will learn how to use his system depends on these two factors. So during part 1, we also mentioned that modeling can be used for various kinds of communicators. So we mentioned children who maybe are completely non-verbal. Modeling can help them learn new words. We also mentioned that modeling is very helpful for children who maybe have a few words, but we could, through modeling, we could teach them that they could join new words and eventually form phrases. And if we want to build up on that, we also spoke about how we could actually get them starting using sentences. This also includes grammatical sentences. So really and truly, aided language simulation is a very, very, very useful strategy for any child learning to use language, be it whether an AAC system or any other system. So apart from that, it's also very good to mention that the fact that when we are modeling, so when we are using the child's AAC system with him, this could be something in the child's eyes. This could be seen as something very positive, because eventually he will get to understand that this system is pretty normal, because everyone around him is using it with him. Also, we spoke about how we model with the AAC, with the child's AAC device. We mentioned particular strategies like the wait and signal strategy. I won't go much into them. But basically, bottom line, if we really want our children to speak AAC, we must speak AAC with them. The next point we covered was routines. So during this section, we mentioned modeling and creating communication opportunities throughout the day. So we talked about where we should model, so where of routines, and we spoke about the how of routines. And we also spoke about the importance of such routines, and what great opportunities they are for our children to learn language, basically. We also, the third point, we also spoke about creating communication opportunities. So just to give you a very, very brief overview, we gave some tips on how you could do this. Basically providing a choice between two items so that the child can ask for the preferred item using his AAC system. We also spoke about keeping items out of reach for children, so that they would have to communicate their requests to you and not just take the item without communicating. And we spoke about other useful tips, such as, for example, providing other choices, and also, for instance, giving them, for example, just a little bit of juice and a very small amount, so that they could actually you could encourage them asking for more using their AAC system. The last thing we spoke about was prompting, and we delved into the prompting hierarchy last time. And we spoke about the importance of providing the necessary support and fading out prompts appropriately to reduce dependency. So we spoke about prompting being a strategy used to assist someone with their AAC system. We also spoke about the various types of prompting, so the verbal, the visual, the physical, and the tactile. And basically, I think that's part one in a nutshell. So let's start with the second part of the second item on today's agenda. So it's basically, what do we need for successful AAC outcomes? This is we made a short list here of I'd say if you have all of these in place, you're pretty much good to go when it comes to implementing AAC. So we will be speaking about knowledge of how to teach AAC systems. We spoke about already the ability to create opportunities across the day. We will also be speaking about knowing where the vocabulary is on the AAC device. This is very, very important, because unless the communication partners know where the symbols are on the communication device, modeling is going to be even more difficult. We're also going to delve into joint engagement, so it's the interaction between the child and adult while attending to the same activity. And then once you have all those in place, probably the child hopefully would be ready to learn. So moving on. So we're going to be speaking about the importance of familiarizing yourself with the vocabulary on the child's AAC system. So the first very basic and one of the most important points is to get everyone on board with the child's AAC device. So if this means getting trained about the child's AAC system, various suppliers often offer a lot of training. I've noticed that during this COVID period, everyone seems to be organizing webinars and trainings about such systems. So really and truly, the information is very much out there. Your speech therapist, your child's speech therapist, can also help you and your family to get familiar with the child's AAC system. And we must not obviously forget even the child's, for instance, LSC, the child's teacher, and any other school staff. So children learn to be independent communicators by imitating adults and others around them. This again ties in very well with how important it is to model on the child's AAC system, because if the child is going to see you using the system with him, chances are that he will imitate you and the adults are around him. We also encourage the child's communication partners to get very comfortable using the AAC system. And really and truly, that means that you get to explore the system by yourself, as well as with the child. Here at ACTU, we try very, very hard to train individuals with various AAC systems. So training for us is a very, very important aspect of AAC implementation. Okay, so so we will be talking about familiarizing yourself with the vocabulary, but now we will be talking about the where aspect of it. So if you have experience with any AAC systems, you probably, the high-tech ones I'm referring to here, you probably know that most of them, if not all of them, have a search function. This search function is very, very important for the user to get familiar with where the vocabulary is on the device. So if you're planning, if it's snack time, for instance, and you're planning on using a couple of words such as eat, drink, more, and maybe some other vocabulary like yogurt, bread, and water or juice. It is very important that if you intend on using them during that activity, you know where they are so that you can model them on the device. That would make it quicker for you and for your child. So I encourage you to explore the search function, try it out. Look for the words beforehand so that you can plan accordingly, and then you could use them during your activity with the child. Besides, apart from that, it is useful for yourself as the child's communication partner to teach yourself how to use this search function. But we also like and we encourage parents and other people to teach the child how to use this function himself or herself. In this way, we would be promoting independence. And we would be teaching the child that if he wants to use a particular word and he can't find it, he could use this search function on the device so that he himself could learn where it is and eventually use it. All right. So before starting AAC implementation, however, we need to make sure that the child is ready to learn. Now, how are we going to make sure? How are we going to know that the child is ready to learn? And if he's not ready to learn, what can we do to make the child ready to learn, basically? So for this section, I will be giving the floor to my colleague and occupational therapist, Sharon Borch, and she will be giving us some tips and some ideas on how we can get the child ready for learning. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Sharon.
Okay, thank you. So in so until we have the slides to come up, so readiness to learn is very important for the children to be able to learn. That's it. So basically, readiness to learn refers to the sensory alertness level, how a person is alert at that point in time. So the person is ready to get optimum benefit from the learning experience when his alertness levels are at what we call at the just right level. And this happens to everybody of us. If I am tired and attending a lecture, maybe some of you have had a bad night, or maybe you are working during the night and you're trying to follow this presentation, maybe you feel it's being a bit difficult for you to follow, and maybe you find yourself to get up, to go and get a cup of coffee, etc. And we're going to talk about that. And if I'm excited, I'm anxious, I'm thinking on something else that happened and I'm really anxious about it, I'm not in the optimum level to be able to learn. So a person cannot adequately attend or perform with an alertness that is too high or too low. So in fact, we see that the children we work with, children could be with any diagnosis, could be having autism or Down syndrome or other conditions, and they might present with what we call sensory processing difficulties. And one of them would be sensory seeking behaviors. And this, you can observe these children that they move into their chair, or they have difficulty to sit at a table and work on activity, and they have to get up and seek movement. And if you have any movement equipment around you, like trampoline or a gym ball, you can see them that they would do a bit of an activity and they go and use the trampoline or the ball, or even they start jumping or running around. And these are an example of sensory seeking behaviors when it comes to movement. But we can also see other children who will seek tactile stimulation. They will touch everything they see around them. And also other will seek to make noises, or maybe they would like to look at something. They would go out of the window and look outside. So we have seen also through studies that sensory seeking behaviors has been shown to negatively correspond to academic performance, because the child is focused on that seeking behavior, and it is disturbing the learning process. So the child must be ready at an emotional and a sensory level before learning can occur. And this is really important. In fact, I am an advocate of doing even therapy and working with a child when they are happy, when they want to do the therapy, they are laughing, they are enjoying the session, or even they are enjoying the activity we are presenting. Because if the child is crying, if the child is anxious, if the child is afraid, that is not a good opportunity for them to learn, and learning will not occur in those instances. And in fact, even if we look at ourselves and remember the good times of our learning experience, they were those times that we enjoyed that activity. We enjoyed the way the person who gave us the learning experience interacted with us. And we remember those lecturers who were fun with us. And this is us as well. And the same, the children will learn when they are enjoying the activity. So I'm presenting this curve. It's the inverted U theory. Actually, it is a very old theory. It's in fact, it was developed in 1908, and it is still relevant. And obviously, from it has emerged other conceptual theories as well. So basically, this shows that the performance, the relationship between performance and level of arousal, and the optimum arousal is in the middle, as is in the color green. So basically, at the bottom, under arousal, if I am under arousal, if I'm bored, I'm tired, I'm not interested, my learning experience, my performance is kind of poor. If then I am well engaged, I am enjoying the activity, that is my optimum arousal. On the other side, if I'm thinking of something else, if I am anxious, if I am maybe angry or very excited, my performance level is going to be poor as well. And this sometimes, if we remember about ourselves, like one example is myself, that I tend to be very good performer when I have a deadline, but I have the deadline to be achieved in the right challenging time. And I have a challenge as well, which is not too much higher than my expertise or skills, but it is slightly challenging, but within my capabilities. And that is when I am at my optimum arousal level. And this is the same for our children. So how to achieve the best performance? So it's important to assure the correct arousal level. And I'm going to talk about this in the next slide. It's important to create the just right challenge. What does this mean? It means matching the level of difficulty with the skill of the child. So when we present an activity, we have to ensure that the activity is not too easy or too difficult, but it is at the right challenge, that it offers that little challenge that the child can learn to the next step, but with the opportunity to be successful as well. So obviously we try to minimize failure as much as possible. So it's important the child is successful. Adjust the task. Obviously this adjusting of task may happen even during the while the child is doing the activity, because sometimes you'll see that it's level of arousal, especially if you have a child that tends to fluctuate, what we call they move a bit, and they will go a bit high and then back to the just right level, so, or they go a bit low and then just to the right, to the just right, so they move a bit, and even within that period of time that you are working with the child. And even the environment, sometimes you tend, like you are playing with your child, and then you realize that they are going for other toys around, and then there you realize that it's important that maybe you take away those toys and just leave the toys that you would like the child to engage in. So it could be that for next time, or at that point in time, you just clear away the toys that are presenting as distracting for the child. It could be that the room is noisy and you need to move out of that room. Or it could be that the child is getting a bit low arousal and you need to put on lights, or you need to open the window to get in fresh air, so that you'll get the person a bit more at the just optimum arousal. And it's important, use motivating activities. You can see a lot of changes in the children when you present a motivating activity. Their eyes lit, their performance improves. Okay, so how to assure the correct arousal level? So we have those what we call calming activities and alerting activities. So calming activities, and I put calming in the brackets. Actually, I didn't put it here, but it means the calming doesn't mean that we're going to calm him. It's getting him to the just right correct arousal level. So slow repetitive movements will help a person to get into those just right. So if someone is very anxious, very on the go, sometimes doing rhythmical movements, could be on a ball, rolling tummy on the ball and giving those rhythmical movements slow, it will help the child to calm down and get him into the just right level. Proprioceptive activities, particularly resistive heavy work. And heavy work, and I'm going to show some pictures of heavy work activities, is one of the safest things that a person can use, an adult can use with a child. Because heavy work activities are good if you have someone who is high arousal, and even if someone is low arousal. So heavy work can help those both children who are either in the low arousal or higher to get into the just right challenge. Deep sustained touch or deep pressure also is a calming activity. In fact, remember, when we are a bit anxious, or when we are sad, or when we are angry and someone hugs us, so they are providing deep pressure, it calms us down. Okay, so that is, sometimes we offer also deep pressure by putting a child lying on the floor, and we put some pillows on him, and we offer sustained deep pressure. When I say sustained, so it is giving at an equal pressure. Quiet sounds, voices, or rhythmical music also helps a person to calm down. Linear, repetitive vestibular input. So vestibular input is providing movement, and like could be on a swing. So a swing, and you are giving him linear movement. And oral motor, that is, use the oral motor skills by chewing. Sometimes, in fact, we recommend use of chewing gum for certain children who can take chewing gum. And because by chewing, and they help them to concentrate much more. Blowing or sucking could be even providing someone with a bottle of water and have a straw in it. So then they have to drink through the straw, and that will give that sucking feeling and will help a person even to calm himself and maintain that optimum arousal level throughout the day. Sometimes blowing, we can incorporate blowing through activities, so it could be blowing of bubbles, etc. Then we have alerting activities. So someone who is low arousal, so bored, maybe a bit slow moving, we can give him quick, erratic, and unexpected movements. Even using, this is something that is very important for us as therapists, like I use it a lot, that I use my body, I will act, I use my voice, I change my voice, use it a bit more dramatic. I even use my eyes and my face. In fact, at this point in time, because of this COVID-19 and sanitization, I prefer to use the visor with the children because obviously my face is showing rather than with the mask because it covers most of your face. Rotatory movement also alerts a person, but I would put a caution on it. So I wouldn't give you advice to use rotatory movement unless it has been prescribed by your occupational therapist, because the use of rotatory movement can also get someone into disorganization. So it's really important to be very cautious on rotatory movement and always seek the advice of the child's occupational therapist. High intensity and high contact variable visual, so like even using our materials, if they have high contrast, they change the visuals, so that we are keeping that child to keep alert, especially if he is on the low arousal side. Loud noises, voices or music, so even like upbeat music, sometimes even presenting an activity at the table, and then after present an activity with music, with upbeat music, in order to maintain that arousal level. Oral motor, so it could be eating something sour or crunchy or bitter. So this is some ideas of what we can present, and I'm going to talk a bit more about how we can work with these activities. The next slide, I'm showing movement activities. So you can see even in our community, we can run around. Some of the children knows how to do certain athletic and gymnastic activities like somersaults and those are good to be done even in between certain tasks. Jumping on the trampoline, we're seeing wheelbarrow, swings, merry-go-round, and even swim kind of water activities. Then in the next slide, I'm going to show opportunities for heavy work. So we're seeing chair push-ups. So the first picture on the left, those are chair push-ups. And for those who maybe are a bit on the lower arousal or maybe a bit high, you can try the chair push-ups now so that you can maintain your attention and focus throughout the next few hours that we have with you. You can give jobs like carrying books, that is also heavy work, or even doing some jobs at home, maybe carrying some groceries, cleaning tables, children who knows how to use a broom, maybe even sweeping. We obviously seeing the trampoline, and we are seeing also washing of the car, so that may be an activity that we can engage our children in. And also we are seeing a picture on the left, which is wall push-ups. So these are some ideas of heavy work activities. It's important, one important thing is also those children who are being followed by occupational therapists or were followed by occupational therapists, and a sensory diet has been given to you. And those activities that have been organized in a sensory diet are there in order to help you to maintain the child's arousal level, so that they are in the optimum performance and they can be ready to learn. So it's important that you maybe go and search for that and see what activities has been prescribed and utilize that across the day. And that is one of the important things, that you use it across the day. Like we eat, we don't eat in the morning only, but we eat across the day. Now, another way of using, especially now we're talking about AAC, so we use these sensory activities in order to maintain the child ready to learn. could be before engaging in the use of the communication activity. So it could be prior doing communicating conversation, or maybe goals, working on the goals of AAC, and the child is engaged in some sensory motor activities. But most importantly, when we are doing these activities with our children, there is lots of opportunities for communication. So if someone is jumping on the trampoline, it would be nice to present the AAC system, and you work on the goals that you have for the child. For example, if you have a more goal, you are okay, if he stops, or maybe he's jumping with you, you're helping him jumping, you stop, and then you present, oh, you want more, even if he tries to pull you so that he jumps more, you show him on the device, oh, you want more. Or maybe if the child knows how to use the device very well, you present the device so that he can ask for more jumping, could be even more swing. Sometimes we can do even ready, steady, go. And these are really great opportunities that we can use. So for communication purposes, but also to maintain the child's optimum arousal levels, so that we can ensure that child's learning experience, even when it comes to his communication goals, which my colleagues now, Martina, I will now give the floor to Martina Zarp, who will be continuing giving more strategies and advice on how we can implement these goals, AAC goals, into the home environment.
Thank you, Sharon, for that very interesting content. As you said, it is very important to establish that the child is ready to learn and to find the just right level before you implement any activity you'd like with the child. Obviously, you want to make sure that the child is engaging and is participating with you in that activity. And as you said, as you rightly so said, when the child is engaging and you know that he has the right attention level, at that point he is ready to learn. And for the next part of the webinar, I am going to be talking about joint engagement. So all of this process, that's the awareness and knowing that the child is engaging with you, is called joint engagement. And obviously, joint engagement it goes hand in hand with being ready to learn, and it is also a very useful skill to carry out, and it also goes hand in hand with aided language input, as we said during last webinar, and also as Jamie pointed out today. Joint aided language input is a very helpful skill, and it is one of the fundamentals for learning. I'm just going to make sure that I am sharing my PowerPoint. So there we go. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint now? All right, so going back to what I was saying earlier, we are now going to be talking about joint engagement. So as I said, and as Jamie highlighted earlier, one of the most important strategies to teach a child a device is aided language input or modeling. And this is, you can only do this once you have the child engaging with you. So once you have established good joint engagement, the child over here is attending, and obviously the child is engaging in this. So as I'm saying, joint engagement is one of the most important fundamentals for AAC implementation. It is a very important strategy, so it's important to model with your children. Joint engagement is a social communicative skill, and it is developed early in children. Usually it is a skill where two people participate together. Usually you as parents or as professionals, you'll be you with your child, so an adult and a child. And over here you want to make sure that you are participating with your child during a same event or activity. So how are you going to make sure that you are engaging with your child? How are you going to make sure that you are going to carry out joint engagement? So what you need to do first is observe what the child is doing, and obviously observe what the child is interested in doing and what he likes or doesn't like, and then just follow his lead. So follow the child's lead, follow what the child is doing, and follow what the child is interested in. So over here, I encourage you to watch out for what might interest the child and think of ways where you can join and participate in what the child is doing. So over here, you are joining and you are trying to think of opportunities that you can create and provide in such situations, in such activities that the child is enjoying. Okay, so you are joining in your child, you are following their lead, and obviously you are then encouraging joint engagement. So moving on. So here are some examples of what you can do. Let's say that one of the activities that the child is really interested in or that the child really likes is playing with Lego. So you've observed and you have identified that the child likes to play with Lego, and now you are going to join and follow their lead and join in this activity. So you can do this you can join in this activity by providing language opportunities and just saying things like more. Oh, you want more blocks, and like that you are joining with the child through their play. Or you can use words like on. Oh, you want to put the block on, put on. Or let's make a tower. Do you want a big block or a small block? And you are providing a choice over here. So again, going back to what Jamie said earlier, you are providing a choice. Do you want the big block or do you want the red block? So you can also provide a choice of color or of size. And also you can comment on what the child is doing. You can comment with the child who is now engaged and is enjoying this activity, and you can comment on what he's doing. Oh, you like it. And like that, you are also providing language to your child and helping learning encouraging learning in a playful and fun way. Another activity which the child might be enjoying might be Peppa Pig. So they might have a toy which they might enjoy, or they might simply like to watch a program of Peppa Pig, and you can join and play in this activity. So over here you can attend to the child's activity by saying words like look, oh look, there's Peppa Pig, or do you want more Peppa Pig? Let's watch this again, or let's play again. Let's play with Peppa Pig. Or again, you can highlight and comment like. So you are highlighting what the child is enjoying. So I encourage you to think of some words that you can use, and obviously that you can use to provide an opportunity for language, and then just play and join in the child's play, and just use these words in such situations. So it's good to be prepared when joining the child, when joining with the child. So now that we know what words we're going to use and we know what activities that the child likes to do, so we found a good opportunity for communication, and also we know that the child is attending with us and they have our full attention. It's important to generalize these responses. It's important to help the children learn how to use these specific words, so say the word more and go, to learn how to use these spontaneously and independently, because at the end of the day we want our children to become independent communicators. So it's important that when we are responding to our children, we don't always provide the same response for a word. So
if we are teaching the child the word more, it's important to not always provide the same response. So use the word more with different activities. So for example, oh, you want more blocks, or you want more biscuits, or let's do some more. But over here you are giving a variety of responses. So you're not always providing the same response. And then this way, the child is not generalizing the word more with that one particular activity, because we want the child to generalize this response in a variety of ways and use it as spontaneously as possible. So I'd like to give you an example. So let's say the word that you want to teach the child is go. Obviously, as we know, go has many different meanings. So we can generalize the word go with our children by saying I go, or you go, or if you are playing with a car, you can say things like car can have a go, or I want to go. And also, if you are playing a game, you can say ready, steady, go. Or if you are doing some alerting activities like Sharon said earlier, and Sharon touched upon earlier, we can simply target the word go when we are jumping on a swing, jumping or on a trampoline, or swinging, ready, steady, go. So here are some ideas that you can do to generalize the same word in many different situations and in many different and provide as many different responses as you can, because it's the only way that you can ensure that the child becomes spontaneous and learns the meaning of this word well. Obviously, the child will be learning, so we will make mistakes when we are learning, and obviously the child may press a wrong button when they are learning and when they are trying to communicate with us. So the child might have wanted to say go, but instead he made a mishit and pressed the word want instead. So it's important that when the children, whatever the child communicates with you, it's important to acknowledge what the child has said, and then take the opportunity to teach them the new word. So, oh, if the child wants to press go, but instead presses the word more, you can say, oh, I think you want to go. Or simply, just acknowledge that the child said more in that situation. Oh, more, but I think you want to go. And just highlight it in such a way. So we like to refer to this as a happy accident. So we all make mistakes. But happy accidents are good because we can take it as an opportunity to teach the children new words. So remember to always attach meaning to the word, and important to keep it playful. Children are young, they like to play, and they learn mostly when they're having fun. Next, I'd like to show you a video and share with you a video. So in this video, we are going to be seeing different ways on how we can generalize the word turn. So over here, the target word is turn, and we're going to be seeing this very sweet girl using turn in many different ways, and we're going to be seeing how it's going to be modeled differently to encourage generalization. Okay, let's go.
Turn.
Turn.
So over here, the children are taking a turn playing a game.
Turn. Turn.
Again, turn around.
Turn.
Turning.
Turn. Turn.
Turn.
Turn.
Turning a knob.
Turn.
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 Taking turns, Jimmy. Uh-oh. I want to turn. My turn. Carla wants to turn.
She can have the left.
Oh, you don't want to turn? You can say, I don't want to turn.
So I think the video helped us to see different ways on how we can generate that same word in different situations and during different activities. So we've attached the meaning to that word in different ways. So in the video we saw the girl take a turn drinking, turn around, turning a switch, and I encourage you to do the same thing with other words, okay? Like go, like we discussed earlier, and any other word which you might be targeting with your children. So we've spoke about the importance of joint engagement and of making sure that the children are engaging with you and that they are attending to what you are doing. We've also spoken about the importance of generalizing these words. And now we're going to move on to goal setting. So now that we know that the child has their full attention and they're ready to learn, and we know how to generalize these words, it's important to keep track of what the child is doing and how they're performing. As I said earlier, our ultimate goal over here is for our children to learn how to use their systems and to be independent communicators. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to obviously keep track of this? And over here, I encourage you to set small goals with your children and just monitor and review them as you go along. Obviously, if the child is being followed by a speech and language therapist, obviously consult with your speech and language therapist to see what goals she is currently targeting, so that you can also work on these at home. But other than that, I think the most important goal I like to tell parents is to use the device as much as possible. So keep the device present, keep it in places where the child can see it, and use it as much as possible. So a simple goal for you can be as simple as learning how to helping the child learn how to use the first 5 words on their device independently. So your goal can be to use the device with the words more, go, stop, play, eat, for example, as many times as possible. So that can be a goal to start off with. We then can move on to providing goals for requesting. So you might want to make sure that the child knows how to request independently. So over here, you can generalize this by the child requesting for food, or requesting for a drink, or requesting for a particular toy, or also requesting that they might not want something, so don't want. And over here, you will be monitoring what the child is doing, what he is capable of doing independently, if they are initiating, and also go over this and review it as you go along to see what the child is managing to do, or if he needs help in a particular area. So if we reflect a bit at our communication and our language, we don't only use our language, and we don't only communicate to request, we do much more than just request. So as I'm speaking to you over here, I'm commenting, I'm asking a question, I might be answering a question, I might be greeting. So we use language in very different ways, and in the next couple of slides, I'll be showing you how you can help your children use the systems beyond requesting. So how can they use their systems to reach more than just the function for requesting? So how the children can use their devices to comment, what words they can use to greet someone, to ask a question, to negate or protest. So we'll be having a closer look at these later. What about grammar? Grammar is also a very important goal to target. Grammar offers a real opportunity for language, and you might want to target, especially over here, and I encourage you to consult with your speech language therapist, because they might have identified particular and specific language goals for your child, and some of these can be working on he and she, working on the past tense, working on SVOs, working on plural. So whatever the goal might be, you can target at home with your children as well. This offers an opportunity for real language, and unfortunately, the majority of systems which we are currently we currently have, which offer real language opportunities, are English focused. So we don't have as yet much opportunities for Maltese when it comes to a more robust and complex language system. But we are currently working on this as well and hope to have something more robust in the future. So again, the importance of providing, going over these goals and setting small goals at a time to make sure that the child is actually progressing and reviewing and see what the need might be at that particular point in time. Again, I stress the importance to speak to your speech language therapist and work hand in hand together to provide such goals for your child. So now let's move on to communicating beyond requesting. As I said, there is much more that you can do other than requesting. We can communicate to make a choice, we can communicate to direct a question, to interact with one another, to simply reject something and state that you don't want something, to answer, to comment, and even to express a feeling like I'm sad or I'm happy. But how are you actually going to do this, and what words are you going to use? So as I said before, when you request, the most common word you might think of is want. But you can also teach the child to use different words like need or help or again. And in the same way, the child over here is requesting, they can request for help and they can say help me. They can request again for doing a particular activity again. When directing, so if your target now is to help the child direct, you can focus on the words put, do, eat, read, go, stop, get, drink, give, make, and play. So again, you can focus on things like put on, read book, stop, play, get up, and so on. When you are expressing feelings, feelings are quite abstract and usually develop quite later, but you might want to highlight feelings in children as they're experiencing them in that point in time. So in context, so if you see that the child is happy, you can highlight such emotions and say, oh, you're happy. If they're sad, you're feeling mad, this is good, that's bad, I'm hungry, you're hungry, and so on. When asking a question, you can focus on the words like what, do, where, and whom. And if your target is protesting, which is also a very good skill that the child would know how to protest and obviously express they don't want to do something, you can work on words like no, stop, don't, or not. Commenting, it's a very good opportunity to do this when engaging and playing with your children, and you can say things like, oh, you like this, or I like this, that's awesome, how cool, that's funny, the car is moving slow, or the plane is moving fast. And like that, you're commenting in a very natural way while playing with your children and highlighting such words in a playful and natural way. So obviously there are a number of resources out there which will help you implement such strategies, and I'm going to now leave it in the hands of May to give us more tips and ideas on how to do this. So May, I leave it in your hands.
Thank you, Martina. I'm just going to upload my PowerPoint. So give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. So as Martina said, I'm going to be talking about the kinds of resources that are out there for you. And let's just make sure we get this PowerPoint nice and big, because for some reason, yes, it's not showing as a slideshow. Okay. I can't seem to get to do it. Okay. I don't think you're sending me live, Jamie. I can only see the slides.
It's loading, like.
Is it actually working?
It's still sending.
Okay. So I'm going to be talking to you about the resources that are out there. And I think this is where we're very lucky because AAC resources are absolutely everywhere. You'll find this all over the internet. Really, it depends on what you're looking for. So if you are a parent or a teacher or a speech and language therapist, you might be looking for something that's a little bit different according to the role that you have with the child who is using the AAC system. The kind of resource also matters. You'll find all kinds of resources out there. There are resources that are more for games. You'll find low-tech boards that can replicate your child's system. You might find specific activities that target goals that you're working towards. And also there's a whole bunch of assessment resources out there. So what we're going to do is just have a quick exploration of what's out there right now. I can tell you it's by no means comprehensive, as in there is so much out there, it's impossible to cover everything in the short space of time that we do have. So the first things I want to talk about were these ones. These are really some really good sites here. The first one is by Genesis. They are a team that works in America and they have their own website specifically for AAC. And we're going to go into detail on this one in later slides. The link is there on this slide. This resource is good for everyone, really useful for parents and educators. And when I move back into this particular one, you'll see why. Practical AAC, I think this is probably everybody's go-to resource, especially for professionals. This one has pretty much anything you might be looking for. That's a picture from their site there on the left-hand side. Pretty much anything. You could be looking for anything and you'll find a whole bunch of things there. They have videos, they have activities, they have words of the week, so you can actually choose to work on specific goals and they will help you with that too. Another one that I put up there is PRC Sotillo. They have a whole bunch of pages that are specifically designed for caregivers that might be of interest, and I've also put the link for that one on that slide. So if you want to know more about your child's AAC device, because at the end of the day, this is where you're going to start. Jamie at the very beginning was talking about how you can use the word finder. But if you want a more general kind of overview of the vocabulary in your device and how it works, the Genesis Center has a collection of videos. They cover videos of Snap and Core first, so anybody who has an Indie will find that there. You might also have a Snap and Core first app on an iPad. The Touch Chat, if you have that either as an app or as a dedicated device, you will find that video there too. LAMP Words for Life, they have videos on how that works. Those of you who are using an accent device with Words for Life on it, or you might have the Words for Life app downloaded on an iPad. You'll find the video of that there. Prolo Quote to Go, that's up there too on their site, and also they have something on Podbooks. So anybody who has been using a Podbook will be able to see that there. So they have all of those videos in one place, and that's the link there. If maybe you've opted in discussion with your speech therapist for Avaz, which is a big possibility if your child is Maltese speaking, they have their own YouTube channel, and they also have that link there is an introduction to the Avaz app. The Grid 3, again, they also have their YouTube channel. It's called Smartbox. So you would want to find that by searching for Smartbox. And again, they have an overview of their software. Bear in mind that the Grid 3 has many, many different kinds of grid sets. And so you'd want to make sure that you're looking for the grid set that matches the one that your child is using. Assistiveware, who manufacture Prolo Quote to Go, they also have their own YouTube channel. And you can see a whole bunch of videos, just an overview of the Prolo Quote to Go app, or you can also see the more detailed videos on how to edit. So going back to that Genesis website, I was quite impressed to find this week. This one has an AAC calendar. So what happens here is you've got videos for various vocabulary softwares at the beginning, which I've already mentioned, right? But then it divides it into different weeks. So you've got week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. The first, and each week then is divided into younger and older learners. So you can choose this according to the age of the child that you are working with. Week 1 is themed, so that every week is themed. Week 1 is about aided language stimulation, which we spoke about in our first webinar. And week 2 is about teaching core vocabulary and the art of waiting, and it goes on. Each week has activities for 5 days, and on each day you've got activities such as videos for you to watch, books to read with your child, activities you can do with your child, and some articles for you to read. They're not saying you have to do each day in its entirety on every day, because it might not be possible for you. We know how busy everybody is, right? But you should be able to pace yourself and do this in your own time. Or it might be that you just say to yourself, right, I really want to find some more about core vocabulary, so I'll skip week 1 and go straight to week 2 because I know about aided language stimulation. So this is a brilliant resource for parents who want to just have their own program and they feel disciplined enough to follow it from a day-to-day basis. So if you are a parent that doesn't have time, of course, all speech therapists are going to say to you, communication doesn't stop at home or at school. We need successful communication happens when people with communication difficulties can use their AAC system in all environments. So ideally, you want the system to be being used everywhere. And if your child is at home with you a lot of the time, especially now that it's the summer holidays, you want to be thinking about how you can provide those opportunities to use AAC system in the home. Assistiveware have an excellent article on using language opportunities in the home. But what I really liked was that they have a whole bunch of different situations like photo albums, reading catalogs, if that's what your child likes doing, arts and crafts, if that's something you're comfortable to do with your child, watching TV, and who doesn't watch TV at some point during the day, cooking, reading books, tidy up, I'm sure you're doing that at some point with your child, and playing hide and seek. And they have some more to do with hygiene. So here what we're saying is that you might say to yourself, right, I don't have a lot of time, but every day I do have 10-15 minutes where I read a book with my son. And in that situation, if you click on the icon, you'll find a video telling you how you can use your system with your child in that setting. So, okay, you're not able to have time to do it all the time, but if you have a few minutes and you have a regular routine that you use with your child, you will find a video that will support you to know how to use it at that time. So I thought that was an excellent resource. Core words, and we keep talking about core words. It is the thing, I suppose, because we believe that learning a few words that you can use in many situations is a very productive way of working with your child. And it gives them access to words that they can use in more than one situation. The Genesis website, which is the one that has the AAC calendar on it, has got that link there that you can read more about core words. They've got a lot more videos to learn more about core words, and they do provide some links to other sites for you to learn more about core words. Now, in the Assistiveware Core Word Classroom, so this is something else. It's part of the Assistiveware website. Assistiveware manufacture Proloquo to Go AAC app. They've got something called the Core Word Classroom. You do need to sign up for this and register, but it is free. It has activities which tackles every core word. So on the right, you have a little example there of the word like. So what they have is core words of the week. And what they will give you is lots of examples on how you can use that word like, a bit similar to what Martina was telling you about earlier. They also turn things around a little bit, and they have some which are more activity based. For example, they have one about Mr. Potato Head, and they're like, okay, if this is the game that we're going to play, Mr. Potato Head, these are the words that we can use in this game. Within the core word of the week, they have how you can use the word on a single basis, so it's just a word like on its own, but they also show you how you can maybe combine it with other words to create small phrases. As I said, this is a free access resource, so you would need to download PDFs that you can use and read in your own time. So some more resources on core words coming from Pathways. Pathways for core words is the companion app to Snap and Core First. So anybody who's got an Indie or the Snap and Core First app, you can actually be looking at Pathways for core words. But having said that, you do not have to be using those apps to use this app. It's a free app for everybody. Also, you can download this on Windows. So what you've got here is the app that you can download from an iPad, on iPad, or the Windows download, which you can go in your store, your Windows store, and that is free as well. The app itself is something you can download too. This one includes lesson plans, videos, and a goals grid for tracking progress. Anybody who is aware of the DAG, which is an assessment which speech and language therapists use for us to know how children are progressing with the AAC system, this is all built into this app. So you have quite a big resource here. If you are a parent, you might be more interested in watching some videos or reading a little bit on some lesson plans that maybe you know you want to work on with your child. Of course, anything that you're working on with your child, you probably would have discussed with your speech therapist, and she would be helping you to set some goals. Game ideas. So apart from core words, there might be some of you saying, okay, I just really want to play games with my son. This is what I'm most comfortable with, or daughter. Inclusive Teach has some ideas on everyday toys plus communication boards. So it gives you toys that you probably know. In the photo here on the left-hand side, you've got a photo of penguin slide. That's where the penguins go down on a roller coaster. But what they have is ideas on how we can use this game if we are an AAC user. And then also they give you a communication board. So if you want a specific communication board that you want to just try, or if you're someone who's just trying out AAC with your child, you can print off the communication board, you've got the toy, and see how it goes. Obviously, if you were doing this kind of thing, you want to be using aided language input, you want to be waiting and making sure that you're discussing this with your speech and language therapist. They have a whole bunch of toys, everyday toys that you probably have at home, things like Mr. Potato Head that you can use. If your child maybe is not so much into those kinds of games, you might be thinking cooking, like for example an older child. Practical AAC has a really good resource on how you can use cooking to support yourself to support your child to use AAC. It does have some recipes which are symbolized, so the recipe is there with all the instructions, and these are they have got simple picture symbols. It also has ideas on which core words you can use to support communication in the cooking activity using your child's AAC device or book. So you may want a low-tech communication board to try out or to replicate your child's system. There are times when you're not going to bring your child's device with you for many reasons. It could be that you're going to the beach and you really don't feel comfortable bringing your child's device with you. So in that situation, you're going to want a low-tech communication board. And there's lots of ways you can get this. So what we're talking about here is a paper-based thing that you can carry with you. Probably you want this to be laminated so that you can wipe it clean, especially right now with COVID. Liberator have got, so if your child is using Words for Life, Easy Chat or Word Power, you can download all the low-tech support books from the Liberator website. They also have an explainer video about how you do it and how you make the book. Of course, here, if you want to talk to people at ACTU, we can help you with this as well. If Project Core has, so this is if you're looking for something different and maybe your child isn't quite yet using a communication device yet, but you're interested in trying things out, right? Project Core has some communication books as well. These are quite interesting because they have quite a big range. They have communication boards, communication books, and they even have classroom posters for those of us who are educators. And then they have some 3D symbols, which are quite interesting and quite different. They also include some low-tech resources for children who use their eyes to communicate, and for those who are using a system of yes, no with partner assistance to select words. So there's quite a range there. Now, if you are a speech and language therapist or you are an educator, you might be looking for something a bit more detailed. The AAC Language Lab has got some resources. We're looking at some evaluation tools there, therapy materials, language charts. It does have a yearly fee, but there are free resource plans, activities and resources. It works well with any of the Liberator devices, but in all honesty, these are resources that you can use as you want with any app or any device. The important thing is you find something that matches what you're looking for. So if your goal is something like using ing, like running, walking, jumping, you're probably going to find a lesson plan for this on Language Lab, because they have a developmental system and they have different stages of language development, and that one might come in at a higher language stage than the very first one. Some more things for educators, people who are in a school setting, right? There is a very interesting video from Practical AAC on how we can support students to use AAC in school settings. Project Core has some professional development modules. So if you're interested in just learning more about AAC and how to implement it, you could be a parent as well, or you could be an educator. You can find some modules that are for free on Project Core. AAC Scotland also has professional development modules. The first module is pretty good if you're a parent or a professional. The later modules, if you're a professional, you might be more interested in moving into those as well. So, some take-home messages about today. We kind of are saying here today that we think it's really important that everyone is on board. Whatever we're doing, everyone needs to be on board. We need to make sure that the child is ready to learn. So going back to what Sharon was saying about the importance of your child being at the right state in terms of their arousal levels and their ability to cope with being taught. We also were talking today about knowing your child's AAC goals. This is really important because at the beginning, there might be goals not just for your child, but for you as well. The goal could be that you use the device when you talk with your child. Your speech and language therapist will be talking with you about goals that you could be helping to implement from a home perspective. If we don't have this happening, what we're going to have is a child who can use their device in one place, but maybe not in another place. So it's really important that everyone is aware of these goals and that everyone is trying to implement them. It could also be that we have goals in two ways, goals which are set to support the child to understand his system and the symbols, what they represent and where to find them. And it could also be other goals that are more directed towards the child expressing himself using his system. So very important that you know about these goals and that I imagine you would have discussed them with your speech and language therapist and that you've agreed on the goals as a team. Also, if you are an educator, that you should also be aware of these goals so that you are also working on the same lines. You want to be consistent with using the AAC device. So in knowing the goals, then you should be consistent to try and achieve them. We are aware that sometimes it can be difficult to be consistent with using the AAC device, and we're going to tackle this now in one of the questions that we're going to be discussing as a panel. But the consistency is key. The last thing is I would say, have fun. This is not about a lesson. It could be that you've decided that I can only be consistent in short spaces of time, but I think the most thing here is use the routines you already have with your child, because very likely a lot of these are fun routines that your child enjoys being with you, and that way you can just use the device as part of the routine. So it's not about the device as the first thing, it's about having fun and doing whatever you normally do together. If it's reading a book or playing a game or watching TV and talking about what's on TV, or even cooking together. So you're having fun doing that, and then you've infused the use of the device within that activity. And that's what we think is the best way forward. So we've just come to an end on what we're going to talk about today. If anybody wants a certificate that is those who are doing the live webinar, you can email us on actu.sapport@gov.mt, or you might have other questions about our service. Please feel free to ask us. Our phone number is there as well, 216-53938. Really want to thank you for listening, and please stay with us, because now we're going to be talking about some questions that have come up that people have. So I'm going to just close down this PowerPoint, and we're going to look at the first question. So, if I stop sharing. No. So the first question that we're going to talk about is one that's to do with sensory issues, and this one came from somebody who's asking, and Sharon, I'm going to put this question to you. Okay, so this person was asking about, she's saying that she supports a non-verbal student using an AAC device who continuously gets up during even the shortest of tasks and engages in constant sensory seeking behavior, whether it's flicking of objects, jumping on the trampoline, or just walking around. What would help to minimize and regulate such sensory seeking behaviors whilst we're working on task? Sometimes he would show that he's calm and he shows readiness to work, but then reverts to seeking sensory seeking behaviors once he's prompted back to task.
Okay. Thank you, May. It's an interesting question, and actually this will help us to elaborate a bit more on sensory difficulty, sensory processing difficulty. So when we are talking about sensory seeking behaviors, exactly as this person described, we can see that this person is basically seeking movement activities, and also maybe the flicking of objects could be also either enjoying seeing the objects moving, or even the input, the proprioceptive input from the flicking of the use of hands and the flicking of the fingers, so that they can flick. Maybe he's enjoying that kind of sensory input. Obviously today it was a bit, since it is much more of a webinar on AAC and implementation of AAC, I couldn't go into much more depth on the sensory systems and how these are affect our performance during the day and etc. Obviously, this would need a full webinar of its own. But speaking of sensory seeking issues, children who seek any kind of sensory stimulation, the way we work with these children is to provide that stimulation. So in this case, if the person is seeking the movement and we are observing it in the environment, we're going to provide it into the environment, but into a more structured way. So basically here I also go for some behavioral strategies and also AAC strategies, what we call the low-tech strategies, which we have also discussed last time during the webinar. That is the importance of using of a schedule. So in the schedule, you can present the task that you are going and incorporate the movement breaks within the task. So like, for example, if you have a task that could be a worksheet, and then after that worksheet, you're going to put the movement break. And then in the movement break, you can give him choice. So there you can give him you create an opportunity for the use of the AAC device as well, so that he can then choose which activity he would like. So for example, finish the activity and then we check the schedule and say, okay, you have a movement break, and then maybe my goal is break. So like I will be modeling using the AAC device, and I'm pressing on the device break. So I'm showing him also that he can ask for a break in another instance. And so, okay, you have the movement break according to schedule. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? You want to jump on the trampoline? You want to play with objects? Or you want, for example, to run? And then the person, I'm giving him a choice. So I'm giving him providing the sensory input in a structured way, but also incorporating the AAC goals, since this person used an AAC device. But also this is important for other children who are using, even if it's someone who is verbal, it's nice to give them a choice. Another thing is that using during the running and using a trampoline, then it is important that the AAC device is being incorporated in there as well. So during the jumping, so now we are extending the activity. So yes, he is maybe doing short activities, but since we are now also utilizing the opportunities of running, of jumping on the trampoline as a learning experience, we can use them also to continue to target our AAC goals. And also it is something which during these activities you can build a relationship with that child, which is really important. By time, using the visual schedule and these strategies on the visual schedule, next time I might put now 2 activities, maybe I'm sitting down and then movement break. And then once I'm seeing that he is getting more attentive to the task and his optimum arousal level is at a good level, then I might after some activities on the schedule and then movement break. Obviously, this might change by time, because as you are then in your second question, it seems that sometimes he might be calm, and then when he sees the task, he might want to engage in other movement activities, or maybe he would be in doing the task, and then he maybe previously was okay, was managing to do a full task, but today it seems for various reasons the child is seen to be a bit edgy, and then that is the time that I might help him to finish the task and provide the movement break immediately after. Going also to the on the second last bit of this question was, sometimes he will show that he is calm and shows readiness to work, but will revert to seeking sensory behaviors once he is prompted back to task. And there I would assess the task that being presented and maybe the environment. Maybe the task is either perceived as difficult by the child, or maybe it is too easy for him, so it is boring. So in that instance, maybe he is escaping back to the sensory behaviors because they are much more motivating than the task presented. So sometimes it is worth looking at the task and maybe changing that task. I hope that I have answered that question.
Thanks very much for that, Sharon. I think that was really interesting, because a lot of times we talk about AAC, but we don't necessarily think enough about the foundations for successful AAC implementation. And here we're going really deep, aren't we? Because we're going to a really basic thing here, which is the sensory, understanding the child from a sensory perspective and how that might be impacting their ability to learn to use the AAC system.
Exactly. Yeah. And this brings me to kind of kind of a phrase that Jane Ayres, it's one of our gurus in occupational therapy when it comes to sensory integration theory, which is the theory underlying our treatment of sensory processing difficulties. And she said, like, have a house with a shaky roof or ceiling, it's fine, she will stay. But a house with not good foundation, it will not stay. And I think this is about foundation and the importance of foundation. The importance of a good foundation is in everywhere, in all aspects of life. And working with these children, having a good foundation is really important, so that we can consolidate then the goals that we are working on.
So I'm going to just change the subject now to something a bit different. And we're going to look at siblings, because we have a question about how we can involve siblings in learning to use AAC systems. And I'm going to give this one to Jamie.
So thank you, May. It's a very good question, because sometimes we find ourselves not giving siblings enough attention. So it's a very good question. So there are a lot of ways that we can involve siblings, actually. actually it's very easy to involve them. Apart from the fact they have a very important role, even just by being obviously a family member. So we could either involve them as maybe, for example, like our mini interventionists, I like to call them. So we could give them like maybe small roles. Like, for example, if we need to gather materials for a particular communication book, they could do. We could give them other roles, like, for example, taking photos of items that we intend on using in our child's AAC system. They could also be in charge of assembling certain material, maybe materials you would need for compiling a communication book. We could also teach them about creating basic communication opportunities, like the one I'm making actually. We could teach them that they could provide a choice to their sibling, and then encourage their sibling to make a choice with their AAC system. Let's not forget as well what we mentioned before, so aided language stimulation or modeling. So we could teach them about the strategy of modeling and teach them how to do it. Obviously, in the same process, we would have to teach them how to them, so that they could model effectively. And in the process, we could also train them and give them the necessary training they would need. We can also think about other things. We can include siblings, such as, for example, during activities like playing. So they probably have a very important role when it comes to the activity of playing, whether it's playing using the computer or using other activities, like, for example, blowing bubbles, or they could play freeze while listening to music with their siblings, for instance. So play is another very important activity that we can involve the siblings in. So I hope that answers the question, and I hope I was able to give some useful tips and ideas about how to involve siblings.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. That was really interesting. And I think it's really important that we take note of siblings, because brothers and sisters are part of the family. And if they are able to speak, then we obviously need for our child to use an AAC system to view his AAC system as also a normal way of communicating. So if their siblings can also use the system, that would be really good, because it really helps. And you'll find lots of videos on YouTube of people who have actually taught the system, not just to the child who needs it, but also to brothers and sisters who are in the home. So moving on to another question, and this one is going to be answered by Martina. What we're going to talk about is one thing that does come up. I mean, it's something that parents say to us, how do I actually use my system on a consistent basis? Martina, do you think you can answer that one?
Thank you, May. A very interesting question indeed, and one which actually parents speak to us about it quite frequent. They do come across challenges with consistency, and the reasons might be various. Some of the reasons might be because the child might be refusing to use the system, and they might be struggling with being consistent because of that matter. They might also be finding it difficult because they're struggling with taking the device wherever they go, or simply because they're lacking training, or also because they might not be finding enough time to use the device and be consistent. So let's start off with the first one. What are the parents going to do? How are they going to be consistent if the children are refusing to use the system? In such situations, I encourage the parents to reduce the pressure from the child and from actually expecting them to do anything, and just simply model and use aided language input. It's the two strategies which we've been going over and stressing upon in today's webinar and also the first webinar. So just model with your children and use the device with them as much as possible by introducing activities or during transitioning from one activity to another, but obviously without expecting the child to do anything. And most often than not, the child would be actually observing what you're doing and will be following what you're doing, but not showing it. And chances are that if you are being consistent at this and modeling consistently and trying to model in any opportunity that you have, the child might be showing more interest to what you're doing, and actually might also try to imitate what you are doing and actually try to imitate that model to make a request. So again, going back to the roots of the fundamentals of AAC implementation. So if the child is refusing to use the system, don't give up, try and be consistent, just use the device and model yourself to the child, and just wait and see if the child does something or imitates, but without putting pressure on the child. Something else which the parents might come across and obviously make it difficult for them to use the device consistently. It might be difficult for the parents to take the device wherever they may be, especially if they are going to the beach because there's going to be water, or especially if the child likes water play. What are the parents going to do in such situations? Obviously, I stress the importance to obviously try, when possible, take the device wherever you are going, be it school, be it during play, being at home, outside of home. But if you are going in places or about to do some activities which involve water, and then the device might be difficult for you to use it in such situations, I encourage you to either use a paper-based system of the vocabulary that the child might have on their high-tech systems, or simply take a photo. Obviously, you can laminate it to obviously be water-resistant and more durable, and obviously you can still model on during these activities and during in activities where it might be difficult to take your device, but you are still providing the child with an access to a language, and you can still model on the words, on the core words, while using a paper-based system or a photo, which is obviously an exact replica of what the child has on their system. So this might be something that you might want to think of. Obviously, if you feel that you are lacking training and this is hindering you from being consistent because you might not know how to introduce or implement the device with the child, I encourage you to speak to your therapist, and also feel free to reach out to us at AAC, and maybe we might be able to help you target your specific areas of concern. Again, going back to what Jamie said earlier, right now during the COVID period, lots of trainings are available on the web. So again, I encourage you to keep an eye out, and obviously watch out for any opportunities for training which might be available. Last point, what if you're not finding time to be consistent with your children? What if you're not finding time to use the device with your child? Again, stressing the importance, consistency and repetition is key over here. But don't be afraid. I mean, just set small goals, and just try to use the device slowly. It doesn't have to be a big or a whole day. Just a simple and small activity will get you started. So just by simply leaving the device ready available for the child, is already a good starting point. And going back to what May said earlier as well, you don't need to plan a lot. Even if you just introduce a device in the daily routines of the child, something that the child likes to do. If the child likes to have a bath, or if shower time is a really fun activity for them, or if they like to eat, you can just simply introduce the device in daily routines, and routines which the child really enjoys doing, without any extra preparation or lengthy activities. So I hope this answered your question, but as much as possible, keeping consistent is key over here. So 1 second, Nick, because you're muted. I'm trying to.
Okay, thank you for that, Martina. That was really interesting reply. We have one final question that we're going to address, and it's about the use of a device for going beyond requesting. So how can I use my device for expressing feelings and for commenting? And although we did address the use of devices earlier for different goals, but we know that often enough a speech and language therapist will start with requesting because that's what motivates your child, and your child is going to get something tangible that they can eat or play with immediately when they use their device, when they ask for something. But obviously many parents are concerned because they want their children to be able to say how they're feeling. Are you sad? Are you happy? Is there a pain? I'm going to address both of them. In a sense, we have the same strategy we can use for both. If we want the child to comment or tell us they saw something, or to express a feeling, one thing that anybody should be doing is showing the child how to do that by using aided language input or modeling, which we spoke about in the first webinar. So if I never use the device myself to express a feeling or to label a feeling that the child is feeling, then he's never going to know how to use that word or those words. So the important thing here is that when you see an opportunity to label a feeling, because the child is laughing and is clearly really happy and enjoying himself, that's a time for you to say, I like it, I'm happy. If the child is not enjoying something, that's a time to say, I don't like it. So you need to be able to label things yourself in order for the child to see how he could use the system, but when he's ready to. With feelings, we really believe that you should try and work on those in the moment. You'll often see activities where there's labeling of photos, but most effective is when the child is observing something or feeling something himself, and that you're labeling in that instance. And with commenting, it's the same thing. Starting off by commenting on things that are unexpected. Oh, look, daddy, or plane or car. These things that happen naturally, that if a child could speak, that would be a time that he would use a word, and then you doing that with the device. Okay, Sharon, I wondered if you wanted to add anything to that?
That's what I wanted, to maybe add, is also the importance of using the device, as we always say, but to comment on our feelings. That is like labeling as an adult. Like if I am happy, I would like comment, addressing, obviously, talking to my child and say, oh, I am happy, I like that. So obviously they are seeing us also labeling our feelings, so that they can see that I am happy from my face, and also labeling that feeling. And then also, as you said, labeling, that's important, so that because feelings is an inner feeling, it's an inner sense. So it's like difficult to identify kind of how we really identify between crying feeling and or maybe angry feeling, because crying you have the tears coming down, so that may be a bit easier, but between anger and happiness. So how do we really identify those feelings? It's because someone labeled them for us when we were in that situation. And this is the same for the children, even with developmental disabilities, that we need to label their emotions, as you said, May, and label and also comment about our feelings as an adult as well.
I was just going to add to that that earlier on in the presentation, when we were talking about goals, we did talk about the need to set goals in two ways, actually.
Yes.
So you've got the first way, which is that you're supporting the child to understand the concept. So you may have a child who doesn't understand the difference between happy and sad, as you're just saying, Sharon, and he has to understand first to identify the difference between those feelings, but also then to find the associated picture that represents that feeling in his device. So there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done from an understanding point of view. And also this will depend to a certain extent on your child's diagnosis, because we know that children who have autism may struggle with this concept. And so we may have the goal of understanding basic emotions going on for a very long time before we actually can expect the child to start labeling them himself.
Yes.
So but the understanding part of this has to come before the expression, although we would be using the device the whole time to actually show the child what the right symbol is to label that feeling.
Yes, in fact, it is about the insight, having an insight of that I am feeling. And before you understand that insight as an individual, obviously you can't express it and you can't comment about others, how they are feeling. And so, and we know that this is quite a difficulty, especially for children with autism. And so, yes, understanding is really important of that. Maybe one last thing I would like to add, not especially on this question, but you reminded me about it. It's because we talked about AAC goals in terms of language, understanding, and also the expression. But also it's important to identify also that we also put goals where it is about the operation of the device. So some children would have goals as well set for example, clearing the display bar where the words when they are chosen, they go up in the display bar, and we give them that, we have that goal set for them to clear that bar. Sometimes it would be a navigation goal, so that they know how to navigate from one page to the other of the vocabulary system, or it could be even switching on and off their device independently. So apart from the linguistic and the linguistic goals and expressive goals, there would be also operational goals that we will be setting up as well as part. So these are important, that even you implement them even, and make sure that you guide the child, for example, to clear the display and to switch it on and off, especially when these goals are set for your child.
Thank you for that really insightful contribution, Sharon. So we've come to the end of our webinar, and as a team we have planned these 5 webinars. This was the 5th one, the second one that was specifically related to AAC. We're always open to ideas for new topics that should be addressed, or that you feel as the public that you would like us to address. So please feel free to email us. You have, I already gave you the email earlier. Also, you'll find a recording of this webinar on the Agency Sapport YouTube channel. ACTU has its own playlist, and there are also recordings of the 4 previous webinars that we've done so far. So from my end, I think we're done for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.